Welcome back to Stars and Myths. In the last episode, we explored the Chinese stories of the moon, where a goddess, a rabbit, and sometimes a frog appear together. Today, we expand our analysis to see how these moon animals and figures appear across the world, and also to see what connects them. We won't distinguish between hares and rabbits or between frogs and toads for simplicity. This map shows the scale of our investigation. The different colors dots represent where the three major moon's motifs are found. In red, we have the water carrier motif. The water carrier motif relates to stories in which two young people carry a pail of water and interact with the moon, often ending up on the moon. The story is common across northern Eurasian region. In cyan, the frog on the moon, motif particularly strong in China and continental East Asia. In blue, the rabbit on the moon, which often appears together with a toad in East Asia. This distribution creates a strong impression of connectivity, as if one motif transforms into another as one moves from one region to the next. But how can this ancient motif from such distant culture be related? It is a central question we'll now explore by studying them one by one. Our journey begins in India, where the rabbit is seen alone on the moon without the frog. In Sanskrit text, the very word for moon means the hair in the moon. The earliest connection between the moon and the hair are found in ancient sacred texts. In an ancient text which we discussed in the episode on Alcor and the Pleiades, the moon phase and the growth of plants are connected to the soma. And in the earlier Rig Veda, soma is described as a drink of immortality. We have drunk soma, we have become immortal. The key elements to note are the powerful pre-Buddhist links between the moon, a hair, and a divine life-giving substance. The ancient moon motifs in China and in India differ but share similar themes related to an elixir, the moon, and an animal on the moon. The problem: scholars have not found solid proof of a pre-Buddhist cultural influence in either direction. The different stories are too closely related to be the result of chance, even so the historical connections are not established. A later Buddhist tale provides a powerful story for the ancient concept of the hair on the moon, where the Buddha to be the hair. Here is an interpretation of the stellar form of the last slide. With nothing to offer, a hungry beggar, who is secretly a god, the hair leaps into the fire as an ultimate sacrifice. Moved by this self-sacrifice, God placed the hair on the moon. Story introduced two key elements: fire and heroic self-sacrifice. Another layer of complexity is added in Mesoamerica. We find a remarkably similar story, but with a different signification. An Aztec myth tells of the gods gathering around a great fire to create the sun and moon. After the sun god bravely leaps in, the moon god hesitates. As a punishment for his cowardice, one of the gods throws a rabbit in his face, marking it forever. We also find in Mesoamerica a strong connection between the rabbit and an intoxicating drink called pulque, which is a mildly alcoholic drink made from agave. This image from the Borgia Codex shows the rabbit, pulque vessel, and the god related to the magi, the agave plant used to make the pulque. Again, we find the same ingredients: a moon, a rabbit, a sacred drink, and fire. But the message is completely reversed. It's not about heroic sacrifice, but about cowardice. Several African stories. The hare is a messenger from the moon. In these tales, the hare corrupts the message about eternal life, and its mistake is what brings death to humankind. At this point, we must step back and look at the pattern we have uncovered, shown in blue at the bottom of the slide. The myths consistently connect a hare or a rabbit, the moon, and the fundamental topics of life and death. In Africa, the hare is flawed messenger who brings mortality to the world. In India, the hare's self-sacrifice leads to an eternal place on the moon. The soma is both related to the moon and a life-giving substance. In Mesoamerica, the rabbit is a mark of cowardice in the face of sacrifice. The pull drink is associated to the rabbit. In China, the hare pounds with his pestle some medicine or the elixir of immortality, depending on the version. They are all stories about life and death. If we analyze further the different stories, another patterns emerge: fire versus water. Across these stories, the rabbit is tied to fire through sacrifice. By contrast, in Northern Eurasia, the dominant moon figure is not a rabbit at all, but a water carrier. In other words, the different versions are organized around a deep symbolic opposition: fire and water. Looking at the map, we can see a thematic transition from the fire-related rabbit in India to the water-associated frog in China, and finally to the water carrier in the north. This brings us to the core analytical problem. How do we explain these connections? The myths are too similar to be a random coincidence, but the timelines and transformation do not fit a simple model with motifs propagating between continents. The historical depth of these motifs makes the problem even harder. We find early sources for all of them. The water carrier is mentioned in the Younger Edda, compiled around 1220. The motif's persistence is so strong that the man in the moon even appears in Shakespeare, A Midsummer Night's Dream. The frog on the moon is found in Chinese divination books from the 3rd century BC. The frog, as we saw in the last episode, is related to Chang'e, who flew to the moon with a life elixir. Chang'e is associated to the toad, which is almost universally related to water. The rabbit on the moon was documented in Mesoamerica by Bernardino de Sahagún already in 1579. Problem is that we don't find a clear connection between pre-Buddhist India and China to explain the similarities. Maybe there was one, but it cannot be detected anymore. A scenario where the motif originated in the Old World and diffused to the Americas is attractive. But it fails to explain the timeline and the unique details of the Mesoamerican version. We are left with a very difficult scientific question that requires a different kind of explanation. We suggest that what spread across culture was not complete stories or motifs, but a bag of simple associative motifs. The moon, fertility and water. The toad with water. Fertility with the hair and the toad. And also opposition between fire and water, life and death. When these ingredients were combined, often with a person or animal on the moon, they created similar myths in different places. Some spread between neighbors, but others, like most likely in Mesoamerica, arose by convergence. Because these motifs are so general, they can travel across culture. They are broadly present and identifiable. To use a cooking analogy, if different chefs all have pasta and tomatoes, many will independently create different dishes, so they use the same core ingredients. Some stories develop mostly independently, with interaction between neighboring traditions. Some others probably diffuse to their neighbors. This model explains why the myths are so similar in the basic element in Mesoamerica and India, yet so different in their specific meanings. The similarities result from the combination of just a few associative motifs that are combined locally. So, to answer our central question, we suggest that the myths are related not because a single story of a rabbit on the moon traveled the whole globe. Instead, basic, powerful associations were shared and recombined independently in new stories that contain the same ingredients. The moon may look the same to everyone on Earth, but the stories we tell are built from the same ingredients, a bag of motifs that culture have used in their own ways. The next episode will conclude the Moon trilogy and take the idea of a bag of motifs further. This episode will make a short synthesis of how myths propagate, converge, and transform. And here, the main references, if you want to dig further in that topic. See you next time. Bye bye. Appear together. Today we expand our analysis to see how these moon animals and figures appear across the world, and also to see what